Okay, gang, the first thing I want to do is set up a new Flash document. So I can either do File, New, if this welcome menu is not open, or I can choose Create New Flash File ActionScript 3.0. So I'll go ahead and do that. Now I want to change the stage size to our finished output for our ad, and that's going to be 300 by 250 pixels. And I do that by first clicking on the stage. Our properties palette turns into properties for the stage. Choose Edit, 300 by 250 tall, 24 frames per second. That's the standard for Flash files these days. So now I've opened up the Photoshop file southlandlayout.psd, and if you look, I've got essentially the layout of my finished ad here. I've got my logo type, the type used for that logo, in a little folder on its own layer. I've got this little bar on its own layer, and then I've got my photographs labeled and on their own layer. So everything's kind of layered and labeled, ready to go, just saved as a Photoshop file. That's important because we're going to import that stuff in, and the more organized you are from the beginning, the easier it is to bring it into Flash. Okay, gang, what I want to do now is I'm back in Flash and I want to import that Photoshop file. So in Flash, I'm going to go up to the menu bar and choose File, Import, Import to Stage, or Apple R or Command R on a PC. And then I want to choose that Photoshop file that we just worked on, southlandlayout.psd. If you look, it gives us a listing of the layers, so it doesn't bring it in as one flattened file. It actually can bring it in as separated layers, which is super cool. And if I click individual layers, I can even refine how I want to bring those in. So for this logo, I put that in a folder, and it's asking me if I want to create a movie clip for this layer, and I think that would be great. So I'm going to click that and then give it a name, logo. If I click the type, it's asking me how I want to bring that type in, and if I have the opportunity, certainly I'd like the opportunity to edit that into Flash. So I'm going to make sure that says Editable on in that folder. This bar, this is actually a vector shape in Photoshop. I'd like to retain that. So I'm going to choose Editable Paths and Layer Styles. That's going to bring that in as a vector shape. Bar, let's name that bar. This is my photo, and it'd be good to bring this in as a movie clip because we're going to animate that. Now I can do that once I bring it in. I can just import it and convert it to a movie clip like we've done before, but this just streamlines the process. Now I'm going to choose bitmap image with editable layer styles. It's going to allow me to bring it in and have some wiggle room as far as cropping. Otherwise it would just bring it in as a cropped photo. So I'm going to do the same for the other two. And toucan, and say OK. So that's brought those in. Notice that my photos are actually bigger than the screen size, and that's that editable layer styles option that I chose. So I can bring them in and move them around, which will be handy in the future. Alright, now that I've gotten that in, what I want to do now is get ready to animate, and I like to animate one thing at a time. Since we brought those in as movie clips, if you look in the library here, it's already made those into movie clips for us. There's the logo sitting there. Generally when you bring in a Photoshop, it actually creates a folder for that, but they're in there. And I'm going to go ahead, since I'm going to animate this toucan first, I'm going to go ahead and delete these two files just so I can just and I'll bring them back later when I want to use them, just so I can focus on this one and keep my stage clean and clear. Want to save this. You don't want to get too far in a file before you save it, so I'm going to go ahead and save that. In this word add. Alright. You'll also notice that this photograph is covering up the stage, so it makes it hard for me to see the edges and know where the edges of that stage is. So what I'm going to do is, in this extra layer here, or if you don't have a layer, go ahead and create one. I'm going to give myself a little guide. So with my rectangle tool, I'm just going to draw a box of any size, because we're going to resize that in a more precise manner. So I've selected that box, I've drawn the box, I'm going to select it, and then I'm going to change the width and height to the same width and height as the stage. So 300 by 250. And make sure my XY positions are 0, 0, so that corner stays where it should be. And I'm going to, in this layer, I'm going to name this guide. I'm going to lock it so it doesn't interfere with anything. I'm going to choose this little color square here. It's going to make just a little outline. And what I'm going to do also is double click this icon over here, and that's going to give me this layer properties option box. And I'm going to choose guide, and that's going to prevent that from exporting. So this is an official guide layer. When I press Apple Return, we won't see that box. We're just using it for this green line here. Well, since I've made that guide, when I turn the photograph on, you see we've got this green outline that indicates the edge of the stage, which sometimes it's hard to get that gauge without a little guide there. You turn it off, and of course you see the white box, but if there's anything bigger than that white box, it covers up it covers up the edge, and it's hard to know where that's at. So that's why we created that guide.